11 megalithic structures that defy the laws of physics. Somewhere in the mountains of Lebanon lies a stone so enormous that modern engineers struggle to explain how ancient people could have moved it. Not carved with steel machines, not lifted with hydraulic cranes, not transported with engines. Yet there it stands, weighing more than a commercial airplane, perfectly positioned as part of a structure built thousands of years ago. And that is only the beginning. Across the world, archaeologists have uncovered ruins that seem to violate everything we believe about ancient civilization. Massive blocks fitted together with impossible precision. Underground cities carved directly into solid rock. Temples aligned so perfectly with the stars that they still track celestial events today with astonishing accuracy. Structures built in locations where transporting materials should have been physically impossible. At first, historians dismissed these mysteries as exaggerations. Then came the measurements, the scans, the engineering analyses, the satellite imagery. Slowly, the evidence began forcing experts into a deeply uncomfortable position. Some of these structures should not exist according to conventional explanations of human history. The deeper researchers investigated, the stranger the story became. Because this is not only about giant stones, it is about knowledge that appears far beyond its time, mathematical precision that modern tools still struggle to reproduce, civilizations capable of shaping mountains, transporting impossible weights, and building monuments designed to survive earthquakes, floods, and the collapse of empires. For centuries, humanity has been told a simple story about progress. That ancient people were primitive, limited, technologically inferior. But what if that story is incomplete? What if fragments of a forgotten world are still standing in plain sight, hidden among deserts, jungles, and ruined landscapes across the earth? Tonight, you are going to see 11 megalithic structures that continue to challenge archaeologists, engineers, and historians alike. Some will leave you amazed. Others may completely change the way you look at human history itself. Because once you truly understand what these ancient builders accomplished, one question becomes impossible to ignore. Who were they really? The day archaeologists realized history was wrong. In 1868, workers digging through the dry earth of northern Lebanon uncovered something so enormous that even seasoned archaeologists stood frozen in disbelief. Buried beneath layers of dust and forgotten history was a stone unlike anything they had ever seen before. Not a statue, not a wall, a single carved block weighing more than 1,000 tons. Even today, modern cranes would struggle to move it. The discovery came from the ancient city of Baalbek, a place already famous for its colossal Roman temples. But this stone was different. It was larger than the blocks used in the Great Pyramid of Giza, larger than anything officially known from the ancient world. As researchers began measuring its dimensions, the numbers became increasingly absurd. The stone stretched nearly 70 feet long and weighed more than several fully loaded passenger jets combined. Then came the question nobody could answer. How was it moved? The official explanation claimed ancient builders somehow transported these colossal stones using ropes, wooden rollers, manpower, and primitive engineering. But when modern engineers attempted to calculate the logistics, the theory immediately began collapsing under its own weight. The friction alone would have been catastrophic. The terrain surrounding the quarry made transportation nearly impossible. Even organizing enough workers to coordinate such a task without modern communication bordered on fantasy, and Baalbek was not alone. As the 19th and 20th centuries unfolded, archaeologists across the world began uncovering structures that produced the same disturbing reaction. In Peru, gigantic polygonal stones were found fitted together so perfectly that not even a knife blade could pass between them. In Egypt, granite blocks weighing dozens of tons displayed cuts so precise they appeared machine-made. On remote islands in the Pacific Ocean, enormous stone statues stood silently facing the sea, their transportation methods still unexplained after centuries of investigation. Each new discovery chipped away at the comfortable belief that ancient civilizations were technologically primitive. At first, many historians ignored the contradictions. Others attempted to simplify the mysteries with vague explanations about lost techniques or massive labor forces. But the deeper the investigations went, the harder it became to dismiss the growing list of impossibilities. Some structures showed evidence of astronomical alignments accurate to fractions of a degree. Others demonstrated advanced understanding of seismic resistance thousands of years before modern earthquake engineering existed. Certain megalithic walls survived devastating earthquakes that destroyed nearby modern buildings. In some sites, the stones were so massive that even replicating the construction today would require highly specialized industrial equipment. And perhaps most disturbing of all, these mysteries appeared across civilizations separated by oceans, languages, and thousands of years of history. It was as if fragments of a forgotten knowledge had once spread across the world and then vanished. The turning point came when engineers themselves entered the conversation. Unlike historians, engineers approached these structures without assumptions about ancient society. They focused only on mathematics, physics, weight distribution, cutting precision, and transportation logistics. What they found deeply unsettled many of them. Certain ancient achievements simply did not match the accepted timeline of technological development. Some experts quietly admitted that reproducing parts of these structures today would be economically impossible. Others acknowledged that the precision found in some ancient stonework rivaled modern industrial machining. Suddenly, the debate was no longer confined to archaeology. It became a direct challenge to humanity's understanding of its own past. Because if ancient civilizations were capable of feats we still struggle to explain today, then history itself may be missing entire chapters. And the deeper researchers looked into these megalithic mysteries, the more terrifying the implications became. Because Baalbek was only the beginning. Stones that weigh more than modern machines can carry. At the edge of an abandoned quarry in Lebanon rests a stone so massive that standing beside it feels almost unreal. It does not look like something human beings were ever meant to move. Carved directly from the bedrock, the block measures nearly 70 feet in length and weighs an estimated 1,650 tons. To put that into perspective, it is heavier than the Eiffel Tower's entire elevator system combined. Modern engineers gave it a chilling nickname, the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, and the moment specialists began calculating what would be required to transport it, the mystery became far darker than anyone expected. Even the largest cranes on Earth operate within strict lifting limits. Moving an object of this size requires not only extraordinary lifting power, but perfect balance, stable terrain, advanced engineering coordination, and machinery specifically designed for extreme industrial transport. One mistake during movement would shatter the stone or collapse the entire operation. Yet thousands of years ago, ancient builders somehow moved stones of comparable size and positioned them with astonishing accuracy inside the Temple of Jupiter at Baalbek. No engines, no steel, no hydraulics, just stone, earth, and human hands. Or at least, that is the official explanation. The deeper researchers analyzed these structures, the more impossible the logistics appeared. Ancient quarries were often separated from construction sites by rough terrain, steep inclines, and unstable ground. In many cases, the stones would have needed to travel uphill, not for a few feet, but across vast distances that modern heavy transport teams would consider extraordinarily dangerous, even with advanced equipment. Then came the discoveries in Egypt. Inside the Valley Temple near the Great Sphinx, archaeologists found granite blocks weighing more than 70 tons each, transported from quarries located hundreds of miles away in Aswan. The route required moving the stones along the Nile River, unloading them, dragging them across land, and positioning them with extraordinary precision. And still, Egypt was not the worst case. High in the Peruvian Andes stands the fortress of Sacsayhuaman, where gigantic stones weighing more than 100 tons were somehow transported across mountainous terrain, without wheels, iron tools, or draft animals. The walls twist together like a giant stone puzzle, every angle perfectly matched. Some blocks rise higher than a two-story house. Others contain dozens of perfectly cut edges fitted seamlessly against neighboring stones. Modern experiments attempting to replicate these transportation methods have repeatedly failed. But the greatest shock came from Easter Island. For centuries, researchers believed the Moai statues were dragged across the island using ropes and primitive sled systems. Then, archaeologists discovered that many statues weighed far more than expected. Some exceeded 80 tons. Others appeared partially transported before being abandoned along ancient roads that crossed unstable volcanic terrain. The official explanations began sounding increasingly desperate. Some theories suggested thousands of workers pulling simultaneously. Others proposed complex wooden track systems. But nearly every explanation created new problems instead of solving existing ones. Where did the enormous quantities of timber come from? How were the ropes manufactured strong enough to endure the stress? How did ancient builders prevent the stones from collapsing under their own weight during movement? And then there is the question almost nobody asks. Why build with stones this large in the first place? Ancient civilizations could have constructed temples, walls, and monuments using far smaller blocks. It would have been easier, faster, safer, and vastly more efficient. Yet across multiple continents, separated civilizations repeatedly chose to move stones so massive that even modern engineers struggle to comprehend the logistics. It is as if size itself mattered. As if these ancient builders possessed either a level of organization humanity has underestimated for centuries, or methods we no longer understand. Because when you stand beside these stones, another realization begins creeping into your mind. The mystery is no longer whether ancient people were intelligent. The mystery is whether we truly understand how advanced they really were, the precision that should not exist in the ancient world. The first thing engineers notice is not the size of the stones, it is the precision. At sites scattered across Peru, Egypt, Japan, and Easter Island, ancient builders created joints so exact that even after thousands of years, a sheet of paper cannot slide between the blocks. No mortar, no cement, no visible corrections. Just stone pressed against stone with a level of perfection that appears almost unnatural. And the more closely researchers examine these surfaces, the more uncomfortable the questions become. In the ancient fortress of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, enormous polygonal stones interlock through dozens of angles with astonishing accuracy. Each block is completely unique, carved to fit perfectly against neighboring stones like pieces of an impossible three-dimensional puzzle. Some weigh more than 100 tons. Yet despite earthquakes powerful enough to destroy Spanish colonial buildings nearby, these walls have remained standing for centuries. Modern architects studying the site reached a disturbing conclusion. The engineering is not primitive at all. In fact, many experts argue these structures demonstrate a level of seismic resistance far beyond what ancient civilizations should have understood. The walls absorb shock naturally because of their irregular geometry and inward-leaning construction. Instead of collapsing under pressure, the stones stabilize one another. It is an engineering solution modern cities still struggle to perfect. Then came the granite cores of ancient Egypt. When researchers examined drill holes and cut marks inside certain Egyptian sites, they discovered something deeply controversial. The grooves carved into the stone appeared remarkably consistent, suggesting cutting speeds and pressures difficult to explain using simple copper tools. Some granite surfaces showed evidence of astonishingly smooth machining. Others contained circular saw marks that seemed almost industrial. Granite is one of the hardest stones on Earth. Even today, cutting it requires specialized equipment. Yet ancient builders somehow shaped enormous granite blocks with extraordinary precision thousands of years before modern power tools existed. The contradictions became impossible to ignore. In Japan, The mysterious Masuda no Iwafune sits carved directly into solid granite. Massive geometric cuts cover its surface with sharp angles and flat planes that look shockingly modern. No one knows exactly who created it or what purpose it served. The site appears less like ancient architecture and more like an unfinished industrial project, abandoned by a civilization that vanished without explanation. Then there is Puma Punku in Bolivia. The stones there are so geometrically precise that some researchers initially believed they had been machine-produced. H-shaped blocks contain perfectly straight lines, sharp internal corners, and standardized dimensions repeated across the site. Certain cuts appear mathematically uniform. Others contain drilled holes aligned with astonishing consistency. And this is where the mystery becomes deeply unsettling. Because precision like this is not accidental. It requires planning, measurement systems, mathematical understanding, standardization, skilled execution. It reflects organized knowledge passed between generations of builders. Yet conventional history insists many of these civilizations lacked even the most basic technologies associated with advanced engineering. So how did they achieve this? Some researchers argue the answer lies in lost techniques humanity no longer remembers. Others believe ancient builders possessed far more sophisticated tools than historians are willing to admit. A few suggest entire chapters of technological history may have disappeared after catastrophic collapses of civilization. But perhaps the strangest detail is this. The same impossible precision appears across cultures separated by oceans and thousands of years of history. Peru, Egypt, Japan, Lebanon, different languages, different religions, different continents. Yet the same obsession with colossal stone and astonishing precision emerges again and again, as if ancient humanity was following rules we no longer understand. And once you notice the patterns, they begin appearing everywhere, not only in the stones themselves, but in the hidden mathematical codes buried beneath the structures. The hidden geometry encoded inside megalithic sites. At first glance, ancient megalithic structures appear chaotic. Massive stones stacked in impossible ways. Ruins scattered across deserts, mountains, and remote islands. Broken temples left behind by vanished civilizations. But the moment mathematicians and astronomers began studying these sites carefully, an extraordinary pattern started emerging beneath the surface. The structures were not random. They were calculated. Across multiple continents, ancient builders repeatedly embedded advanced geometry, astronomical alignments, and mathematical ratios into monuments constructed thousands of years before modern science officially understood them. And some of these alignments are so precise that they continue functioning today. Every year at Stonehenge, during the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the monument's central axis, exactly as it did thousands of years ago. In Mexico, the Pyramid of Kukulkan creates a moving shadow during the equinox that resembles a giant serpent descending the staircase. Deep inside the Abu Simbel temples of Egypt, sunlight penetrates the sanctuary with astonishing accuracy on specific days linked to the reign of Ramses II. These are not coincidences. They required generations of observation, mathematical planning, and an extraordinary understanding of the sky. But the deeper researchers investigated, the stranger the geometry became. The Great Pyramid of Giza contains proportions linked closely to the mathematical constant pi. Its dimensions align almost perfectly with true north, despite being constructed long before compasses existed. The precision is so extraordinary that even a slight modern construction error would be considered unacceptable by today's engineering standards. Then came the global alignments. Researchers noticed that certain megalithic sites appear positioned along mysterious geographic patterns spanning enormous distances across the Earth. Some theories suggest ancient civilizations may have understood planetary geometry in ways still poorly understood today. Others point toward recurring mathematical ratios appearing repeatedly in structures separated by oceans and thousands of years of cultural evolution. And this is where conventional explanations begin breaking apart. Because understanding celestial movement is not simple. Tracking solstices, eclipses, star cycles, and planetary shifts requires long-term observation over generations. It demands mathematical consistency, accurate measurement systems, and sophisticated knowledge of time itself. Yet many of these civilizations are still officially described as primitive societies barely emerging from the ancient world. The contradiction becomes impossible to ignore. In Peru, the ancient site of Machu Picchu aligns with solar events and sacred mountain positions with remarkable precision. In Cambodia, the temples of Angkor Wat mirror celestial patterns linked to astronomical cycles. In Malta, underground megalithic chambers resonate with strange acoustic frequencies that some researchers believe were intentionally designed into the structures themselves. It is as if these civilizations were building far more than monuments. They were building systems. Systems connected to mathematics, astronomy, sound, geography, and perhaps something even deeper that modern researchers still cannot fully explain. And then comes the most unsettling question of all. How did civilizations separated by vast oceans develop such similar obsessions with sacred geometry and celestial alignment? Thousands of years before satellites, modern navigation, or global communication, ancient builders across the Earth appeared fixated on encoding mathematical order into stone itself. Some researchers believe this reflects independent human genius emerging naturally across cultures. Others are no longer so certain, because the more connections emerge between these distant sites, the harder it becomes to believe they were isolated accidents of history. And soon, the mystery moves beyond mathematics, because some of these structures were not only designed with extraordinary precision, they were built to survive catastrophe itself, the structures designed to survive the end of the world. In 2010, a violent earthquake struck Chile with such force that entire buildings folded into themselves within seconds. Roads cracked apart, bridges collapsed. Modern concrete structures crumbled under the pressure of the shifting earth. Yet thousands of miles away, archaeologists studying ancient megalithic sites began revisiting a disturbing question. Why had some ancient stone structures survived catastrophic earthquakes for centuries, while modern buildings failed in moments? Because this was not luck. Again and again, researchers discovered ancient megalithic constructions designed with astonishing resistance to seismic destruction. Massive polygonal walls flexed under pressure instead of collapsing. Giant stones shifted slightly during earthquakes, then settled back into place almost perfectly. Structures thousands of years old endured violent tectonic activity that destroyed far newer architecture surrounding them. And some experts quietly admitted something deeply uncomfortable. Ancient builders may have understood earthquake engineering better than many civilizations that came after them. Nowhere is this mystery more visible than in Peru. The walls of Sacsayhuaman and Machu Picchu stand in one of the most seismically dangerous regions on Earth. For centuries, earthquakes have repeatedly devastated nearby cities built by the Spanish using European construction methods. Churches collapsed, colonial buildings shattered, entire streets turned into ruins. But the ancient Inca stone walls remained standing. The reason lies hidden inside the engineering itself. Instead of using rigid rectangular blocks, the builders created irregular polygonal stones that locked together like giant puzzle pieces. The walls lean slightly inward. The foundations absorb movement naturally. During earthquakes, the stones vibrate, shift, and redistribute pressure without fracturing apart. It is a level of seismic adaptation so effective that modern engineers continue studying it today. Then there is Japan. For centuries, Japanese castles and megalithic foundations endured repeated earthquakes using enormous interlocking stones designed to disperse energy throughout the structure. Some ancient walls survived disasters that erased entire districts around them. Similar principles appear in ancient Greece, Turkey, and parts of Central America, where builders seemed obsessed with flexibility, weight distribution, and structural stability. But the mystery grows darker in places like Egypt. The Great Pyramid has survived more than 4,000 years of environmental stress, storms, erosion, and seismic activity. Its internal chambers remain astonishingly intact, despite immense pressure from millions of tons of stone above them. Modern engineers still debate how ancient builders achieved such extraordinary structural balance without advanced computer modeling or industrial surveying tools. And then, there are the underground cities. Deep beneath the Turkish region of Cappadocia lies Derinkuyu, an enormous subterranean complex descending multiple levels underground. Entire communities once lived there beneath solid volcanic rock. The city contains ventilation systems, water access, food storage areas, hidden passageways, and massive circular stone doors capable of sealing entire sections from invasion. But perhaps its most important feature was protection. Protection from war, from environmental catastrophe. Perhaps even from something larger, ancient people feared deeply. Because throughout the ancient world, traces of catastrophe appear everywhere. Flood myths, burn layers in ruined cities, sudden disappearances of civilizations, geological evidence of dramatic climate events, entire societies collapsing within surprisingly short periods of time. Some researchers now believe ancient builders were not simply constructing monuments to display power. They were preparing for survival. And when you begin looking at these megalithic sites through that lens, the architecture changes completely. The enormous stones no longer appear excessive. The underground chambers no longer seem mysterious. The obsession with durability begins feeling intentional, as if these civilizations understood something about destruction that later generations forgot. Because the greatest mystery may not be how these structures were built. The greatest mystery may be what they were built to endure. The impossible cities carved directly into stone. Far beneath the surface of central Turkey, hidden behind narrow tunnels and sealed stone doors, lies an entire city that should not exist. Not a cave, not a small shelter, a city. Multiple underground levels descending deep into the earth, complete with living quarters, storage chambers, ventilation systems, wells, animal enclosures, gathering halls, and hidden escape routes stretching through solid volcanic rock. Tens of thousands of people once moved through these corridors in complete darkness beneath the surface of the world. And nobody truly knows who first built it. The underground city of Derinkuyu remained hidden for centuries until a modern homeowner accidentally discovered a secret passage behind the wall of his basement. As archaeologists descended deeper into the tunnels, the scale of the discovery became increasingly difficult to comprehend. The city reached depths of more than 280 feet underground. Massive circular stone doors weighing hundreds of pounds could seal entire sections instantly from invaders. But the deeper researchers explored, the stranger the engineering became. The ventilation system functioned with astonishing efficiency, delivering fresh air throughout the underground complex, even at extreme depths. Water systems remained protected from contamination. Certain corridors narrowed intentionally to force attackers into vulnerable positions. Entire sections appeared strategically designed for long-term survival underground. This was not primitive excavation. It was calculated engineering. And Derinkuyu is not alone. Across the ancient world, civilizations carved astonishing structures directly into mountains, cliffs, and bedrock with a scale and precision that continue baffling experts today. In Petra, Jordan, enormous temples and facades were sculpted into towering canyon walls with extraordinary detail. In India, the Kailasa temple was not built upward like a normal structure. Instead, builders carved downward into a single massive rock formation, removing hundreds of thousands of tons of stone to reveal an entire temple complex hidden inside the mountain itself. Even modern engineers struggle to understand how such projects were organized. Because carving directly into stone leaves almost no room for error, a single major mistake can destroy years of work instantly. Every chamber, corridor, support column, and structural angle must be planned in advance before excavation even begins. There are no blueprints scratched into surviving walls, no surviving manuals explaining the methods. Only the finished structures remain, silent and impossibly precise. Then there is Lalibela in Ethiopia. Entire churches carved directly downward into solid volcanic rock, not assembled with separate blocks, but excavated from the earth itself. Massive trenches were cut first, isolating giant stone masses before sculptors transformed them into complete architectural structures connected by hidden tunnels and passageways. And the mystery grows even deeper in South America. At sites throughout Peru, enormous stone chambers and hidden tunnels extend through mountains with astonishing precision. Some researchers believe many remain undiscovered beneath collapsed terrain and dense jungle. Others suspect entire underground networks may still exist beneath ancient ruins around the world, buried under centuries of geological change and human conflict. But perhaps the most unsettling realization is this. These structures required unimaginable labor. Not days, not years, generations. Entire civilizations dedicating enormous amounts of time, coordination, and resources toward carving directly into solid stone. And they did so repeatedly, across continents separated by oceans and thousands of years of history. Why? Protection, religion, power, survival? Or were these underground worlds created for reasons modern civilization no longer understands? Because once you descend into these ancient cities, another feeling begins emerging from the darkness, the sense that ancient humanity may have been preparing for something so important that they carved entire worlds beneath the earth itself. And above those hidden cities, another mystery waited silently in the sky. Because the builders of these structures were not only masters of stone, they were watching the heavens with terrifying precision. Ancient builders who understood the sky better than modern science expected. Long before telescopes existed, before satellites mapped the stars, before modern astronomy gave names to distant planets and galaxies, ancient civilizations were already building structures aligned with the heavens so precisely that modern scientists still struggle to explain how they achieved it. And the deeper researchers looked into these alignments, the more impossible the knowledge appeared. At Chichen Itza in Mexico, thousands of people gather every year during the equinox to witness something extraordinary. As the sun begins to descend, shadows move slowly across the pyramid of Kukulkan until a massive serpent shape appears to crawl down the staircase toward the earth below. The effect is not symbolic. It is mathematically engineered. Every angle of the pyramid was carefully designed to interact with sunlight at a specific moment in the solar cycle. A slight miscalculation would destroy the illusion entirely. Yet ancient builders achieved this precision centuries before modern instruments existed, and they were far from alone. At Stonehenge, enormous stones weighing dozens of tons align almost perfectly with the sunrise during the summer solstice. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid faces true north with astonishing accuracy, deviating less than many modern structures built using advanced equipment. At Abu Simbel, sunlight penetrates deep into the inner sanctuary only on carefully selected dates associated with royal symbolism and celestial cycles. Again and again, ancient builders demonstrated an understanding of the sky that appears far beyond what historians once believed possible. But then came the discoveries that truly unsettled researchers. Some ancient structures do not simply align with the sun. They align with complex astronomical cycles involving stars, planetary motion, and long-term celestial changes that unfold over thousands of years. Certain sites appear connected to the precession of the equinoxes, a slow movement of Earth's rotational axis requiring centuries of careful observation to detect accurately. This changes everything, because tracking these cycles is extraordinarily difficult even with modern tools. It requires advanced mathematics, systematic observation across generations, and accurate systems for recording astronomical movement over immense periods of time. Yet civilizations officially described as primitive somehow encoded this knowledge directly into stone monuments designed to preserve the information for thousands of years. Then there is Göbekli Tepe. Buried beneath the hills of modern-day Turkey lies one of the oldest known megalithic sites on Earth, dating back more than 11,000 years. Massive carved pillars stand arranged in circular formations, some researchers believe, according to celestial patterns visible in the ancient sky. The discovery shattered conventional timelines overnight, because according to standard history, human civilization at that time was still emerging from hunter-gatherer existence. Yet here stood monumental architecture requiring planning, labor coordination, symbolic communication, and astronomical awareness on a scale nobody expected to find. The implications were explosive. Suddenly, archaeologists were forced to confront a deeply uncomfortable possibility. What if ancient humanity developed sophisticated knowledge much earlier than modern civilization realized? And perhaps more disturbing, what if parts of that knowledge were lost? As researchers connected ancient sites across continents, astonishing similarities began emerging. Sacred structures repeatedly aligned with solstices, equinoxes, star systems, and celestial events. The sky itself seemed woven into the architecture of ancient civilizations around the globe. It was as if humanity once shared a forgotten obsession with the heavens. Not merely for worship, but for measurement, prediction, preservation, and maybe even survival. Because if these ancient builders possessed such advanced understanding of astronomy, another question becomes impossible to avoid. How did civilizations separated by oceans develop such similar knowledge without global communication? The answer may lie hidden within the greatest mystery of all, a pattern connecting megalithic structures across the entire planet. The global mystery nobody can explain. The walls of Peru should not resemble the walls of ancient Japan. The temples of Egypt should not share architectural obsessions with structures buried deep in the Pacific Ocean, and civilizations separated by vast oceans, thousands of miles, and completely different histories should not repeatedly build monuments using the same impossible techniques. Yet they did. As archaeologists began comparing megalithic sites across the world, an unsettling pattern slowly emerged from the ruins. Again and again, ancient civilizations with no officially recognized contact displayed striking similarities in engineering, stonework, astronomical alignment, and construction philosophy. Not similarities in style, similarities in method. In Peru, massive polygonal stones locked together with extraordinary precision. In Japan, ancient castle foundations use remarkably similar interlocking techniques designed to resist earthquakes. In both locations, the stones fit together so tightly that even centuries of seismic activity failed to break them apart. Then came the discoveries in the Pacific. Nan Madol, an abandoned city built on artificial islands in Micronesia, contains enormous basalt logs stacked into complex structures rising directly from the ocean. Some of the stones weigh dozens of tons. The island itself lacks the resources expected for a civilization capable of transporting such materials on that scale. Researchers still debate how ancient builders moved the stones across water without advanced ships or industrial tools. And once again, the same questions returned. How were they transported? Why were they built? Who taught these civilizations such methods? The deeper investigators looked, the stranger the global connections became. Massive ceremonial platforms appear in distant cultures, separated by oceans. Sacred sites repeatedly align with celestial events. Underground chambers with unusual acoustic properties emerge in regions with no known communication. Similar myths describing floods, destruction, and vanished civilizations appear across continents that supposedly developed in complete isolation. Some researchers dismiss these patterns as coincidence. Others no longer believe coincidence is enough, because the similarities extend beyond architecture. Many ancient civilizations also shared symbolic obsessions with stars, cycles, catastrophic destruction, sacred mountains, underground worlds, and divine beings connected to knowledge descending from the heavens. The details differ from culture to culture, but the core themes repeat with disturbing consistency. As if fragments of an older memory survived inside civilizations long after its original source disappeared. Then there are the ancient maps. Certain controversial historical maps appear to depict geographical knowledge difficult to explain for their time. Coastlines hidden beneath Antarctic ice, unexpectedly accurate planetary measurements, oceanic awareness that challenges accepted timelines of navigation and exploration. The evidence remains fiercely debated, but the questions continue multiplying. Because when researchers isolate a single ancient structure, conventional explanations often appear sufficient. But when the entire planet is examined together, the pattern becomes much harder to ignore. A pattern of giant stone construction, a pattern of astronomical precision, a pattern of earthquake-resistant engineering, a pattern of mathematical knowledge emerging across civilizations, separated by oceans and thousands of years. And perhaps most disturbing of all, a pattern suggesting humanity's past may have been far more connected than modern history admits. Some researchers believe ancient civilizations independently arrived at similar solutions through human ingenuity alone. Others suspect something much larger once linked these distant cultures together. A lost exchange of knowledge, a forgotten civilization, or perhaps fragments of a world erased by catastrophe long before recorded history began. Because when viewed individually, these megaliths are mysterious. But when viewed together, they begin looking like pieces of something enormous, hidden beneath human history itself. And the closer modern engineers examine these structures today, the more uncomfortable the situation becomes. Because some of the greatest megaliths on Earth are not only difficult to explain, they are nearly impossible to reproduce. The megaliths modern engineers refuse to replicate. In an age of satellites, artificial intelligence, nuclear power, and machines capable of reshaping entire landscapes, humanity likes to believe it stands at the absolute peak of technological achievement. But there is a problem. Some ancient structures still cannot be recreated today without staggering cost, extraordinary risk, and engineering challenges so extreme that many experts would rather avoid attempting them altogether. And that realization has deeply unsettled modern engineers. The issue is not whether humanity possesses advanced machinery. The issue is whether modern civilization can realistically reproduce these megalithic achievements using the same scale, precision, and durability without relying on completely different construction methods. At Baalbek in Lebanon, the trilithon stones remain among the largest blocks ever incorporated into a structure anywhere on Earth. Each stone weighs roughly 800 tons. Modern cranes capable of lifting such weight are rare, enormously expensive, and require highly controlled conditions. Yet ancient builders not only moved these stones, they elevated and aligned them with astonishing accuracy. Some engineers openly admit they do not understand how it was done, and the mystery becomes even greater in Peru. The polygonal walls of Sacsayhuaman contain gigantic interlocking stones shaped with irregular precision so exact that modern architects studying them remain astonished. Reproducing such stonework today would require enormous labor, advanced surveying equipment, industrial cutting tools, and extraordinary financial investment. Even then, perfectly replicating the craftsmanship would be incredibly difficult, because modern construction rarely values permanence the way ancient builders seemed to. Today, buildings are designed for efficiency, speed, and economic practicality. Ancient megalithic structures appear designed for survival across thousands of years. Their enormous stones resist erosion. Their flexible engineering absorbs earthquakes. Their geometry distributes weight naturally with astonishing stability. In many cases, ancient builders achieved durability modern civilization has not matched. Then came one of the most revealing moments in the debate. Several experimental archaeology teams attempted to recreate ancient construction methods using primitive tools and historically accepted techniques. Researchers tried dragging giant stones with ropes, cutting granite using copper implements, transporting enormous blocks without advanced machinery. The results were deeply problematic. The projects consumed enormous time, manpower, and resources while producing outcomes far less precise than the original structures. Certain cuts proved extraordinarily difficult. Some transportation experiments failed entirely. Others succeeded only under highly controlled modern conditions impossible to guarantee in the ancient world. Instead of solving the mystery, many experiments intensified it. And perhaps the most uncomfortable realization is this. Modern engineers often avoid building with gigantic stones, not because it is impossible, but because it is impractical, dangerous, and economically irrational. Massive megalithic construction requires astonishing levels of planning, labor coordination, and patience that modern industries rarely tolerate. Yet ancient civilizations repeatedly chose this path. Again and again, they selected the hardest possible methods. They transported impossible weights, carved mountains, aligned structures with celestial precision, built monuments capable of surviving millennia. Why? What motivated societies to invest such unimaginable effort into structures that far exceeded ordinary necessity? Religion alone feels insufficient. Power alone feels incomplete, because many of these structures seem built with an obsession for permanence itself, as if their creators wanted them to outlive kingdoms, disasters, and perhaps even civilization itself. And in many cases, they succeeded. Empires vanished, languages disappeared, entire cultures collapsed into dust, but the stones remained, silent, watching humanity forget the knowledge that once shaped them. And that leads directly to the most terrifying possibility of all. Because if ancient civilizations truly possessed abilities modern humanity still struggles to explain, then perhaps history is hiding something far larger than lost engineering. Perhaps humanity has forgotten part of its own story, the terrifying possibility hidden beneath every megalith. For centuries, humanity has looked at ancient ruins with a sense of superiority. We called their builders primitive, limited, early civilizations struggling through the darkness before the arrival of modern science and technology. We imagined history as a straight line of constant progress, where each generation became more advanced than the last. But the megaliths tell a very different story. Because the deeper we investigate these ancient structures, the more that simple narrative begins to collapse. Across the planet, impossible stones remain standing as silent contradictions to conventional history. Colossal blocks transported across mountains without machines, precision engineering that rivals modern industrial work, astronomical alignments requiring generations of observation, underground cities carved directly into solid rock, earthquake-resistant designs surviving catastrophes that destroyed entire modern buildings. And perhaps most disturbing of all, these achievements appear again and again across civilizations supposedly isolated from one another. At some point, the question changes completely. The mystery is no longer whether ancient people were intelligent. The mystery is how much knowledge disappeared from the world. Because history is not only a story of invention, it is also a story of collapse. Civilizations fall, libraries burn, languages vanish, entire societies disappear beneath floods, volcanic eruptions, invasions, famine, and war. Knowledge that once shaped the world can vanish within generations, leaving behind only fragments that later cultures no longer fully understand. The ruins may be those fragments. Scattered clues from civilizations that possessed engineering systems, mathematical understanding, or organizational capabilities far beyond what modern timelines comfortably allow. And there is another possibility that unsettles many researchers even more. What if humanity has experienced multiple cycles of advancement and collapse? Not a single uninterrupted climb from primitive survival to modern civilization, but repeating waves of growth followed by destruction, powerful enough to erase enormous portions of human memory. Geological disasters, climate catastrophes, sudden collapses capable of reducing advanced societies into scattered survivors forced to rebuild from ruins they no longer understood. The megaliths begin looking very different through that lens, not simply monuments, warnings, messages from civilizations determined to leave something behind that time itself could not erase. That may explain why these structures were built with such impossible durability. Why gigantic stones were chosen over smaller materials. Why sacred knowledge was encoded into architecture aligned with the stars. Why certain monuments appear obsessed with permanence beyond ordinary human timescales. Perhaps their creators understood something terrifying about the fragility of civilization itself. And perhaps they knew that one day, future generations would stand before these ruins asking impossible questions. Questions we are still unable to answer today. Because despite all our technology, despite satellites orbiting Earth and machines exploring distant planets, modern civilization still cannot fully explain how many of these structures were created. The stones remain, the mysteries remain, and the silence surrounding them grows heavier with every new discovery. Somewhere beneath deserts, jungles, mountains, and oceans, there may still be ruins waiting to be uncovered. Entire chapters of human history buried beneath time itself. Forgotten civilizations whose achievements no longer fit comfortably inside the story humanity tells about its own past. And perhaps the most terrifying realization is this: if ancient humanity truly possessed knowledge we no longer understand, then history may not be the story of human progress. It may be the story of human amnesia,